Target. Ticker-specific analysis. E is positive trade recommendation. Hold E is score 1 symbols. E is news. HSBC upgrades Eaton Corp to buy. Announces $400 price target. Overall sentiment positive. Score 4 out of 10. Short-term impact. Possible short-term increase in stock price. Long-term impact. Long-term potential for growth based on upgraded rating and price target. Ticker-specific analysis. Eaton. Positive trade recommendation. Buy Eaton, score 2 symbols. Eaton. News, Microsoft, Nebius, Iron and more. 5 stocks investors couldn't stop buzzing about this week. Overall sentiment positive, score 7 out of 10. Short-term impact. Market volatility driven by retail investor hype and corporate news flow. Long-term impact. Potential for sustained growth and increased market presence due to companies' achievements and agreements. Ticker-specific analysis. Iron. Positive Meta. Positive MSFT. Positive trade recommendation. By QBTS. Score 2 symbols. Iron, Meta, MSFT, NBIS, NVDA, OCLO, and QBTS. News, JP Morgan maintains overweight on Dover, raises price target to $230. Overall sentiment positive, score 7 out of 10. Short-term impact. Stock price may increase in the short term due to raised price target. Long-term impact. Long-term market impact uncertain, but positive sentiment from analyst maintains overweight rating. Ticker-specific analysis. DOV, positive trade recommendation. Buy DOV, score 2 symbols, DOV. News. Guggenheim maintains buy on MBX Biosciences, raises price target to $88. Overall sentiment positive, score 5 out of 10. Short-term impact. Stock price may increase due to higher price target. Long-term impact. Potential long-term growth based on analysts' positive outlook. Ticker-specific analysis. MBX. Positive trade recommendation. Hold MBX. Score 1 symbols. MBX. News, WDC stock has given up its prior gain. Western Digital shares were trading higher after Susquehanna maintained a neutral rating on the stock and raised its price target from $135 to $205. Overall sentiment neutral, score 0 out of 10. Short-term impact, minimal impact expected due to neutral sentiment and lack of significant changes. Long-term impact, potential for moderate increase based on price target raise.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to head the whole shebang up. And he also happens to be a great guy. Brooke Rollins, who's doing a fantastic job at agriculture, and thank you. And how are the prices coming?
They're coming, sir, they're coming down.
Don't forget, we inherited a mess.
Sure did.
Remember eggs? They were up 4 times higher than they ever were. And in my first day, they said, what are you going to do about eggs? I said, I didn't cause the problem. We didn't cause, we inherited a mess, but the prices are coming down.
Yes, sir. Wholesale prices are down 86%. Retail a little bit less than that, but yes, you're making America affordable again.
With you in charge, I have no doubt, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, a really good man, a really brilliant guy, Dr. Mehmet Oz. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Oz. And thank you also to Governor Jim Pillen, Senator Dan Sullivan, and Representatives Rob Bresnahan, Mike Lawler, John McGuire, and Nick Begich. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it very much. Now we have other congressmen here, I see, and a couple of senators, and we appreciate everybody being here. Everyone wants to be a part of this. It's so important. It's maybe, I don't know, for many people, there's nothing more important. I would say maybe defense. You know, we need defense. And we need offense too, by the way. As part of the great big beautiful bill, we have increased funding for the health care by an unprecedented $50 billion. That's rural health care. Nobody thought that was going to happen, and we got it done. So we have rural health care for those that were trying to make a case that we weren't taking care of the rural community. I'm all about the rural community. We won the rural communities by numbers that nobody's ever won them before, and we're taking care of those great people. So we already did this. We increased funding for rural health care by an unprecedented, record-setting $50 billion over 5 years, which will benefit Americans in all 50 states. And this was made possible by cutting massive waste, fraud, and abuse from Medicaid and reinvesting those funds to revitalize hospitals in our cherished rural communities and hospitals in rural communities. And I want to say, with all of the fraud that we're seeing in Minnesota and California and other places, I actually think that if we do an unbelievable job, you could almost balance your budget, Kevin. If you take a look at the kind of numbers you're talking about, nobody ever saw anything like it. They're all corrupt politicians, from the governor of Minnesota to the governor of California to everybody. They're just corrupt politicians. And you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in fraud. Waste fraud and abuse, but in fraud, you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. Under the Unaffordable Care Act, which is Obamacare, it's called the unaffordable. It is unaffordable, remember that. Rural hospitals and communities were devastated by soaring costs, and that continues. Despite colossal increases in government spending since Obamacare was passed, only 7% of the annual Medicaid spending on rural hospitals has gone to rural hospitals. So there's only a very little. They didn't care. Obama didn't care about the rural community, to be totally blunt. What he did care about is insurance companies. And this was a bill to make insurance companies wealthy. And they did. They made insurance companies very wealthy. I would say they don't like me too much because they spent hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're going to have that money spent to the people and given to the people, not we're going to circumvent the insurance companies. Partially as a result, rural health care facilities have suffered from low occupancy rates, workforce shortages, and failing programs that put Band-Aids, literally put Band-Aids over the problems in those communities, and we're not going to have that. We're taking great care of them. With the Rural Health Transformation Program, we are getting rural communities the health support they need, and we're getting it immediately. These funds will go to empowering rural hospitals, strengthening their workforce, modernizing facilities and technology, and ensuring that rural Americans get world-class health care in their own community, right smack in their own community, like they've never had it before. And they've been hurt very badly by the Unaffordable Care Act. Every single Democrat in Congress voted against the lifeline for rural communities. And I hope everyone knows this, and this is not about elections, but I hope you remember this in the midterms, because the Democrats are just so horrible toward the rural community. But I want to take a moment to thank the incredible House and Senate Republicans who worked so hard on making this historic investment possible. That's what they did, and they did work hard. I don't think, got a Democrat vote, did we? Did we get one Democrat vote? We got all Republican votes. It was an amazing feat, and I want to thank Mike, our Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and John Thune for really doing a great job. It was tough. You know, we have small majorities.
Shares rise after
And,
raising
I
fiscal
wanna
year
thank the congressmen
2026 revenue
that are
outlook
here
overall
for
sentiment.
doing, in particular, for
Score 9
working
out
so
of
hard
10.
and getting this done.
Short-term
Yesterday, I
impact
also announced our
expected to continue
framework
upward
to lower
movement
health
based
care
on strong
prices
momentum and
for all
neutral
Americans,
RSI.
including those in
Long-term
rural
impact.
America.
Robust
And
long-term
we're
strength
calling it
indicated
the
by
Great Health Care Plan. You know, we had to come up with a
482.73%
name,
surge in shares over
and
the past
everybody
12
wanted to
months.
say, oh, well, can we put
Ticker-specific
something about
analysis.
lowering costs,
Funds.
because we're lowering
Positive
costs very
trade recommendation.
substantially.
Hold on.
So I had Bobby, and
symbols.
I had
Funds.
Oz, we had everybody in there. We had a whole group of people, and we're trying to come up with, so we're saying, the cost reduction plan that gives you good health care. And I said, it's too long. It's not going to sell.
may lead to
healthcare
increased
plan.
investor
Now, a
confidence
great
and
plan
potential long-term growth.
has to be
Ticker-specific
cost-effective,
analysis.
otherwise it can't be a
Sire,
great plan. That's the
positive
way I looked
trade
at it.
recommendation.
So we
By
have a very
Sire,
glamorous
score
name.
two
It's called the
symbols.
Great
Sire.
Healthcare Plan, not the Unaffordable Care Act. I don't like that name. This is called officially the Great Healthcare Plan. That means low price and great
News.
healthcare. So you're going to have at a lower price
AIB by stock
great
updates.
healthcare.
Acquisition.
First,
debt
our
conversion,
proposal
and new
codifies the
partnerships
massive
explained overall
discounts
sentiment.
on prescription
Positive,
drugs that my
score 7 out of
administration is
10.
achieving through
Short-term
our
impact. The
most
stock may
favored
experience short-term
nation
volatility due to
provisions.
mixed
Okay,
momentum. Long-term
we can go
impact.
into this.
Long-term prospects appear positive with strategic moves and partnerships driving growth.
We can go into this
Ticker-specific
for
analysis.
hours,
Positive
but the
Rob.
bottom line is
Positive
we'll be
trade
paying the
recommendation.
lowest
Hold Rob.
price
Score
of any
one
nation
symbols.
in the world.
Buy
Whoever's
and
paying the
Rob.
lowest, we match it. This could have been done years ago. I was going to do it in my first administration, but when COVID came toward the end, I said, I can't believe it wasn't it wasn't exactly a good time to be doing it. But I said, why isn't somebody doing it? And the reason they're not doing it is that no other nation would agree. France, as an example, paid 10% of what we paid. Germany was paying 13 or 14% what we paid. In other words, we paid many times more, not a little bit more, not 10% more, 10 times more. A pill would cost 10 times more in New York than it would cost in London, as an example, than it would cost in Munich.
Long-term
And this
impact.
went on for many
Potential
decades.
long-term market
This was
impact due to the
right
raised
from the
price
beginning.
target,
And the
but no
reason it
clear
went on
direction. Ticker
was
specific
a little bit of
analysis.
the healthcare
ROC.
companies, but it was
Neutral
other
trade
nations, and I
recommendation.
understand that. If I were
Hold
heading
ROK.
Germany, I'm not going
Score
to
zero
double and
symbols.
triple and quadruple
ROC.
my healthcare. They got the healthcare companies to pay. It just took place over a long period of time, got worse and worse, and it just hit numbers that were just absolutely unsaleable. And if you remember, the doctors in the audience remember, they say, well, we have to do research and development. I said, well, what about research and development for Germany? Well, we've decided to put up so the pill would cost 5 times more because of research and development, and 5 times more for other reasons. They had all these phony reasons. And finally, I said to the healthcare companies, we can't do it anymore. We can't do it. And it started, really, I tell the story. It wasn't meant to be funny. People find it funny. But a friend of mine who's a very smart guy, very, very rich, very powerful man, actually, but he's very fat. And he took the fat, I call it the fat drug. I won't give you which one. It was Ozempic. I won't tell you that. And he went to London on one of his many business trips. It's all he does is business. He can't walk across the street, but he's a great businessman. And he said, President, President. I said, what? He used to call me Donnie. Now he calls me President. So I said, you've come a long way. He goes, but I have a problem. What's your problem? In New York, I pay $1,300 for this drug. Now, this means nothing to him. This is like a penny out of your wallet. The guy's worth hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. He said, and in London, sir, I pay just a fraction of that. I said, what are you paying? $87. I said, well, is it the same drug? I knew exactly what he was getting at because it bothered me for a long time. He said, it's the exact same drug. And because of his wealth and his business smarts, he had it checked. It was made in the same plant by the same company. It's identical. And here I pay 87.
News.
And in
JP
New York,
Morgan
I pay
maintains underweight on Roper
$1,300.
Technologies. Lowers
So,
price target to $457
it was too much
overall
to bear.
sentiment. Negative.
Because
Score -4
after
out
I
of
told
10.
him that
Short-term
the
impact.
drug does not work
Potential
on him,
short-term
because I saw
decline
him
in stock
recently, he's
price
actually
due to
fatter
lowered
than
price
ever.
target.
I
Long-term
said,
impact.
the drug is
Long-term
not working on
implications
you. You're
uncertain,
going to have to go
but
to something
negative
else.
sentiment may persist.
But it does work on a lot of
Ticker-specific
people.
analysis.
And
ROP.
he
Negative
said,
trade
thanks, you make me
recommendation.
feel good. I said,
Hold
well,
ROP. Score
I got
0
to be
symbols.
truthful. Always
ROP.
tell the truth, right, Mr. Congressman? Oh, look, two of the great congressmen. But the
News.
drug,
Here's how much
we have to
$100
do
invested
something
in
about it, because
CrowdStrike
that's the
Holdings
same
5
with every,
years ago
I
would
would
be
say,
worth
Bobby,
today
every
overall
drug,
sentiment.
essentially. Doesn't have to be in that
Positive.
proportion. In
Score
some
5 out of
cases,
10.
it's much worse.
Short-term impact.
Because what happened,
Short-term market impact is expected to be positive due to the significant returns
what
reported.
happened
Long-term
is
impact.
these countries are
Long-term
very
market
smart.
impact may be
And
sustained
the drug
due to
companies
CrowdStrike Holdings'
would go
continued
to
growth
them
and
and they
performance.
said, look, we're paying $10
Ticker-specific
for the pill. We're not paying more.
CRWD.
Charge America.
Positive
And
trade
this happened
recommendation. Hold CRWD.
one time,
Score
and the
0
next year,
symbols.
the next year. This is over
CRWD.
40 years. All of a sudden, they're paying $10 for a pill, and we're paying like $130 for the same pill. It just happened over years, slowly. And it got to a point over the last 10, 12, 15 years where it just was unbearable. And I went to a great executive at Eli Lilly, the top man. He's a very smart guy. And I confronted him, and he had the same line that they always have,
fund backers looking to
research
cash
and
out
development.
Bloomberg overall
I
sentiment.
said, look,
Positive,
we got to
score
stop
4
this
out of 10.
nonsense.
Short-term
We're
impact.
paying
The
10
acquisition
times
is
more
likely
for
to have a
things
positive
in
short-term
Europe.
impact on Blue Owl's
It's not
stock
research
price.
and development, and if it is
Long-term
research and
impact.
development, they
The
should pay their
long-term market
share
impact
of
will
that too.
depend on the success of Blue
And he
Owl's
said to me,
future
and he's a great
investments
guy,
and
he
strategic
said, look,
decisions. Ticker-specific
you're
analysis.
right, we can't defend
OWL,
it anymore.
positive trade
I said, you're
recommendation
admitting it?
by OWL.
Because
Score
these
2
guys had
symbols. OWL.
all of them. They must have taken a class together. Must have been, it's probably illegal what they did, Lola. You'll check
SBDR
it, right?
issuer states
They must
Street
have
ends
gone to school together and
2025
said,
with
this is the
record
way we're going to fight this
$5.7
crazy
trillion
thing
assets under
where the
management.
United
Overall
States pays
sentiment.
10, 12,
Positive.
13 times
Score
more for a
5 out
drug.
of 10.
Same drug.
Short-term
Same
impact.
drug made in the same
Stock
plant.
price may see a temporary
And
decline following
he
the
said,
release
here's
of
the problem
quarterly
we
results.
have. The
Long-term
nations
impact.
are brutal.
The company's
When we
strategic
go in and
priorities
say,
and growth
we have
initiatives
to
may
give you an
lead to
increase, they
long-term
say,
market
no,
appreciation.
put it on America,
Ticker-specific
we're not paying you
analysis.
anything. And they say it
STT,
with such power.
positive trade
And they actually
recommendation.
shut us off from
Hold
selling the
STT,
drug.
score 0 symbols.
And
STT.
it just happened over and over again. It got a little worse, a little worse, a little worse. All of a sudden, we're paying many times more for the same. I said, it's not going to happen
Stifel
anymore. I said,
maintains
the
buy
problem
on
is, sir,
Centec.
you'll never get the
Raises price
nations
target to $1.90
to
overall
agree.
sentiment.
It's
Positive.
impossible.
Score
They're
5
very
out of
tough,
10.
and they are.
Short-term impact.
And they'd have
The
to
news is
agree to
likely
a
to have a
doubling or
positive
tripling of their
short-term
drug
impact on
prices
Centec's
in
stock
order to get
price
you
as
down.
investors
Because
react
the
to the
world is a
increased
bigger
price
place than
target.
us.
Long-term
So
impact.
it's not like
A
you cut
long-term
it in
increase
half.
in the price
Actually,
target
if they
suggests
raised
a
it a
strong
little bit,
outlook
we'd
for
go
the
down a
company,
lot.
which could lead to
You
sustained
understand that? I
investor
think
interest
people
and
understand
potential
that. So you
long-term
raise
growth.
it like from 10 to
Ticker-specific
$20
analysis.
or 10 to
SMTC.
$30, but we'd go
Positive
from
trade
130 down
recommendation.
to
Hold
30.
SMTC.
We're down to 20.
Score 1 symbols.
So,
SMTC.
because the numbers are much bigger, the numbers on their side are much bigger. So they'd need a doubling or tripling or quadrupling. Now, if you're the head of France, the last thing you want to do is say, I'm going to quadruple the cost of a drug. And that's the way it is. But I said, I know, but it's not fair. And this has taken place. And the head of Eli Lilly, and I really mean it, an unbelievable executive, an unbelievable guy, one of the most successful companies, and who's, by the way, spending hundreds of billions of dollars right now. He told me the other day, he's building 6 major plants in the United States. You know why he's doing that? Because of tariffs. He's doing that because of tariffs. Without tariffs, he wouldn't be doing it. Nobody understood tariffs until I came along.
JP Morgan maintains
Nobody
overweight
understood,
on
other
Vertiv
than
Holdings, lowers price
President
target
McKinley, he
to
understood him a long
$225
time
overall
ago.
sentiment.
And because of him,
Neutral, score 1 out
we
of 10.
were the richest nation that
Short-term
we ever
impact.
were at
Price
that
target
period of
reduction
time.
may lead to
And
short-term
then,
market volatility.
when he
Long-term
died, he was
impact.
assassinated.
Maintaining an
Teddy
overweight rating
Roosevelt came over
suggests
and he
long-term growth
inherited
potential.
a war chest. And he built the
Ticker-specific
Panama
analysis.
Canal, which
VRT.
is the single most
Neutral trade
expensive
recommendation. Hold
thing
VRT.
ever built
Score
in the
minus
history of
1
the United
symbols.
States,
VRT.
relatively. We spent
Security release for
38,000
quotation overall sentiment.
men. In those
Neutral,
days, it was
score
men. I
0
have to
out
say
of 10.
this, but mostly men.
Short-term impact.
They didn't have a
Neutral,
lot of
no significant
women workers
impact
on the
expected
Panama
long-term
Canal.
impact.
But we
Unknown.
lost
Insufficient
38,000
information.
people.
Ticker-specific analysis.
They died from
FGU.
malaria
Neutral symbols.
and snake
FDU.
bites. It was a combination of that, a vicious snake, one of the most vicious. You get hit, you're dead. They died from snake bites. 38,000. They paid workers from the United States 3 times more than they made to come over to Panama and dig. For many of them, that was not a good deal.
JP Morgan maintains
They died,
overweight on Wesco
38,000.
Info.
We gave it
Raises
away
price
for
target
that.
to
But that same
$290 overall
stupidity
sentiment.
having to do with the
Score 5
Panama
out of
Canal,
10.
and I could tell you about
Short-term
100
impact.
other stories.
Potentially
too.
positive short-term
You don't have time.
impact due to price
But
target
that's
increase.
what went into
Long-term impact.
this whole thing
Neutral
with favored
long-term
nations.
impact as analyst
So Europe and
maintains
other
overweight rating.
nations
Ticker
all over the
specific
world
analysis.
were getting
WCC.
drugs from the
Positive
same
trade
plant, same factory,
recommendation.
same everything,
Hold
same
WCC.
location,
Score
everything,
1
same
symbols.
company
WCC.
for a tiny fraction of what we're paying. So our people were paying a tremendous amount. So the gentleman from Eli Lilly and others, we had a meeting, and they all finally put up their hands. You got us. We give up. And they were great from that time. But we had a problem. The other nations weren't going for it. France turned it down. Germany turned it down. UK turned it down. European Union turned it down. The whole group.
News. President Trump
And they
praises
said, there's
Fed
nothing you
contender
can do
Hassett,
about it,
says
sir.
he may want to keep
I
the
said,
next
yes, there
director.
is.
Adds on Fed,
No, there
says
isn't.
we'll
You'll
see
never
how it
be able
works
to get
out.
them up.
Overall
You'll never,
sentiment.
I mean, the
Neutral.
whole industry is
Score
going to be
0 out of 10.
torn apart.
Short-term
I said, we'll
impact.
get them up
No
easily.
clear short-term
Are you
market
crazy?
impact.
Of course we'll get them up. That's
Long-term
what I do
impact.
for a living. I
Potential
get people
long-term
up.
impact due to
So,
changes in Fed
I
policies, but
started
it is
with
unclear at this time.
President
Ticker
Macron of
specific
France, a
analysis.
very nice person.
SPY.
I like him a lot.
Neutral trade
Hope he's listening
recommendation.
because he doesn't
Hold
believe that, but I
SPY.
do.
Score 0
nice
symbols.
man.
SPY.
And I said,
News. President Trump praises
Emmanuel.
Fed contender Hassett, says he
Yes,
may want to
doing
keep
all,
the
doing all.
next
Thank
director.
you so much for
Adds
calling.
on Fed, says
I
we'll
said, you're
see
not
how
gonna
it
like
works
this
out.
call.
Overall sentiment.
You're going to
Neutral.
have to get your
Score
drug
0
prices
out of
up.
10.
No.
Short-term
I will
impact.
not do that.
Minimal expected
I said,
impact on
Emmanuel,
short-term market trends.
We're paying 13
Long-term
times more
impact.
than
No
13
clear
times,
indication
not
of
13%.
long-term effects on the stock market.
13 times
Ticker
more than you
specific
are
analysis.
for this
SPY.
bill. I
Neutral
rattled off
trade
some numbers that
recommendation.
are crazy.
Hold SPY.
You know the
Score
numbers
0
I'm talking
symbols.
about, Oz.
SPY.
Oz would give me some numbers. I'd say, this is crazy. We're paying 10 times, 12
News.
times,
JP
13
Morgan
times.
maintains
No,
neutral on
no,
Watsco.
I will not
Raises
do that. I
price
said, look,
target to
you've got to
$370
do it.
overall
100%
sentiment.
you're going to do it.
Positive.
No,
Score
Donald,
3
I
out
told
of
you
10.
I will not do that.
Short-term impact.
I said, here's the
Short-term
story,
impact.
Emmanuel. If
Minor
you don't
stock
do it,
price
I'm going to put a
increase expected.
25% tariff on
Long-term
all
impact.
goods, wine,
Long-term
champagnes, and
impact.
everything else coming
Potential
into
for
the
sustained
United
growth
States of
with a higher
America. He
price
said,
target.
Donald, I would love to
Ticker
do this
specific
for you.
analysis. WSO. Positive
It would be a
trade
great honor to
recommendation.
do it.
Hold WSO.
And that's
Score
where it
1
began.
symbols.
And I
WSO.
went through country after country. Susie was responsible for getting every one of those leaders on the thing. Susie, by the way, stand up, Susie. She is doing such a good job. She's the first. She's the first
News. Benzinga
female
market summary. U.S. and
chief of
Taiwan
staff.
strike trade
And she
agreement.
might be the best
Gold
chief
and
of
silver
staff, too.
pullback.
But she's doing a great
Rare
job.
earths
Thank you,
and
Susie.
minerals on
So
Washington
Susie,
U.S. Greenland developments. Overall sentiment. Neutral.
Susie
Score
got 'em
0
all.
out of 10.
and I just went
Short-term
one
impact.
after another. I
Potential
called
market volatility
Germany.
due
No,
to trade
we
agreements
will
and
not
metal
do that.
price movements.
I said, no, we're
Long-term
going to put a
impact.
25%
Unclear,
tariff,
as the
which
article
is, by the
does
way,
not
about
provide long-term outlook or implications
7
for the
times
mentioned
more
tickers. Ticker
than they would
specific
have to pay
analysis.
by
ARIC.
raising their
Neutral
drug, like 7
CRNL.
times. This wasn't
Neutral
like a little bit
GLD.
more.
Negative
7
trade
times more.
recommendation. Hold VTI.
And I may do
Score
that for
minus
Greenland,
1
too. I may
symbols.
put a tariff on
ARIC.
countries if they don't go
CRML.
along with Greenland, because we need
GLD.
Greenland for
MP.
national security. So I
SLV.
may do that. I'll give you a little.
SPY.
I'll talk
USAR
about.
and VTI.
I'll take you out of that. In fact, that'll end up being the story. But actually, this is a much bigger story because we're reducing healthcare by numbers that you haven't seen. So I spoke to the top 10 countries. They all said
News.
no, and
JP
within about
Morgan
2 minutes,
maintains
they all
neutral
agreed.
on WW.
And we were off to the
Ranger
races.
raises
And
price
now
target to
we have
$1,100 overall
favored
sentiment.
nations. It's
Positive.
called
Score
most
3 out of
favored
10.
nations.
Short-term impact.
So if
Mildly
France
positive
is
impact
paying,
due to increased
let's say
price target.
$20 or
Long-term
$30
impact.
instead of $10,
Potential for long-term
we are going
growth
to pay
based
that
on
20 or
analysts'
30.
neutral
We
rating
pay
and price target
the
increase.
lowest price,
Ticker
whatever
specific
the
analysis.
lowest price is.
GWW.
So if France is
Positive
paying
trade recommendation.
$100, but
Hold
Germany's paying
GWW.
$20, we
Score
pay
1
what Germany
symbols.
pays.
GWW.
So we go from a horrible situation on drugs, prescription drugs, to the lowest price anywhere in the world. Is that a correct statement, Oz? Because they're going to blame you. If you want to correct me, you can, but you won't be here for long if you do. They'll
You're
say,
correct, Mr.
Oz has
President.
left employment. No, but is that a correct statement?
That's an absolutely correct statement. And that's what we want to codify in the great healthcare plan.
Yeah.
That's why
what
it's
we're
so
codifying.
important.
That's
Because
right.
if the president's not here, there's a flight risk with these companies not obliging us anymore, because I think it's the strength of your personality, but also they know they will follow through with the threats if we don't act. So we believe other countries will change their opinions, and so will drug companies. So we've got to get it into legislation.
Well, if you have the wrong president, the countries have tremendous influence over us. They look why
News. JP
why
Morgan
did we go
maintains
to an income
overweight on
tax
Parker
system
Hannifin.
instead of a tariff
Raises
system? We
price
had the
target to
wealthiest nation.
$1,083
If you
overall
go back
sentiment.
to
Positive. Score 5 out
the
of 10. Short-term
1800s,
impact. Moderate increase in
1887,
short-term
we had
stock
money,
price
so much
expected
money, we
due to
didn't know what
raised
to do
price
with
target.
it. But the countries
Long-term
at that
impact.
time,
Positive
same, no
long-term
different. They
outlook
have a
for Parker
tremendous
Hannifin
influence
with
over this
potential for
country for
continued
whatever
growth and
reason. I
increased
don't know,
investor confidence.
but they do.
Ticker
So if you
specific
have the wrong
analysis.
president, they'll change the
PH.
system in 2 minutes.
Positive
I mean, they'll
trade
change it. And
recommendation.
the drug companies
Hold
are very
PH.
powerful, too.
Score
You have
1
to deal with them.
symbols.
In this
PH.
case, it was both. I mean, you had a problem with the drug companies, but you had a tougher problem in theory, other than the fact that I understood how to deal with them. And I'm the tariff king, and the tariff king has done a great job. And I hope we win the Supreme Court case, because if we don't, be a shame for our country. Be a shame. We have a great, safe, beautiful country now. We're doing better than we've ever done. We hit 42 stock market highs during the 11-month period that I've been here. There's never been anything like it. Stock market's hitting a new high again today. So it's, it's been incredible. So just to end it on this, because it's such a big subject and it can't be explained by reading. As good as my speechwriter is, he's fantastic, but he can't write it in one sentence what we're talking about. So we're going to get most favored nations. We will be taking prescription drugs down to levels never even contemplated. And that's all great for healthcare.
News.
Because
looking for a
when
short
you're
squeeze,
paying
10
a
stocks
tiny
ready to rocket
fraction
overall
of what you
sentiment.
had anticipated
Positive,
paying
score
prior
3 out
to
of 10.
today,
Short-term
prior
impact.
to this month,
Potential
this
for
all took
fast
place over the
gains through a
last month
short
and a half.
squeeze, but with high
And the
risk and
sad part is
volatility.
that when
Long-term
we first
impact.
announced it, and we
Uncertainty
did it
about
in a little
underlying
bit less,
risks and
more
business
general form,
uncertainty
when we
may
first
impact
announced it, the
long-term
Times
performance. Ticker
did
specific
a story
analysis.
on page
Car,
22 or
neutral
something, way back
CHH,
in the little story in the
positive
back of the
HIMS,
newspaper.
Neutral trade
This
recommendation.
is the biggest revolution in the
UAA,
history
score
of
1 symbols.
medicine
Car,
in this country because
CHH,
it's price.
HIMS, IBEX,
You're going to buy the
KSS,
drugs for
LCID, MARA,
a small
PCT,
fraction of what you were paying
RVLV,
for
and
them
UOP.
last month. And I tell the story of my first term. I was the one, after 28 years, that got drug prices down. It was either 1/4 or 1/8 of 1%. I got them down for the year. First time in 28 years. I was so proud of myself, I called a news conference. I said, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in 28 years, drug prices have gone
JP
down
Morgan maintains
for the year.
neutral on Clorox. Lowers
1/8
price
of a
target
point.
to $114
In fact, I had a
overall
chart. It was the
sentiment.
worst chart I've ever
Neutral.
seen.
Score
It was a
minus 2 out
line
of 10.
that went from
Short-term impact.
January to
Minor
December,
impact
and it was
on
dead
CLX's
straight.
short-term price movement.
You had to get a
Long-term
little,
impact.
like a
Potential
carpenter.
long-term
here,
impact
just
due to changes in
to
analyst
see.
opinion
I said,
and price
this
targets.
doesn't look good. It's not the
Ticker-specific
greatest line,
analysis.
but I was
CLX,
proud of it because
negative
it
trade
did. It went down either 1/4 of a
Sell
point or
CLX,
1/8 of a
score
point tiny.
minus 2 symbols. CLX.
And now think of what we're doing. We're bringing
News. JP
medicine
Morgan
down
maintains
by
overweight on Colgate
many
Palmolive.
times.
Raises
By
price
many times.
target
Nobody's
to
ever
$93 overall sentiment.
seen. And there are two ways
Positive.
of calculating.
Score
You
4
could
out
say
of 10.
1,000%,
Short-term
2,000, or you could say
Potential
90%
short-term
or
gain for
80%.
CL investors.
The Democrats
Long-term
want you to
impact.
say 90 or
Long-term
80, but there are two
prospects
ways
for
of
Colgate
calculating it.
Palmolive remain
You
positive
understand
with
that,
the
Dan?
overweight rating and
And
increased price target.
we'll take either way. It doesn't
Ticker-specific
matter.
analysis.
But we'll
CL.
be paying a tiny
Positive
fraction.
trade
So
recommendation.
that's going to go into
By
our
CL. Score 2
plan.
symbols. CL.
And what Oz said is very important. It's very important that whoever is in this office is, strong and intelligent. And if they're not, they could, it could be ended. But what we want to do is we want to have it codified, so it's very hard to change. And that's all part of the process. I think it's the greatest revolution because it's financial is, a big part of the drugs. And all of the doctors sitting there know exactly what I'm talking about. They have their patients in Europe, and they're saying, I can't believe it. I'm buying the same thing for, 15% of what I pay in New York or in Chicago. And they're all nodding their heads. That's right. That's not going to happen anymore. We pay now, just to end it, the lowest
News.
price
Stifel maintains
in the
buy
world,
and see time.
whatever that
Raises
is.
price target to
That's what
$400
The
overall
United
sentiment.
States of America
Positive.
will be paying.
Score
Isn't that
7 out of
amazing?
10. Short-term
Long
impact.
story. This
100
nation's
in
going to be a
ProShares
better
Ultra Silver
negotiator than
stock 10
everybody
years
else.
ago. You would
And
have
whatever
this
they
much
get,
today.
we get,
Overall
Mike. Is that
sentiment.
pretty good?
Positive.
Look at
Score
Mike.
5
Even
out
though
of
the first
10.
time I've ever seen him
Short-term
smile.
impact. The stock's current price and market capitalization
And next, our
may
plan would
influence
reduce your
investor
insurance
decisions.
premiums by
Long-term
stopping
impact.
government payoffs to big
AGQ's
insurance
exceptional
companies and
performance
sending
over
the
the
money
past
directly
decade
to
could
the
attract
people.
more investors and
So
lead to
instead of,
increased
this
demand for the
started,
stock. Ticker-specific
and I'm not
analysis.
really a
Ag.
healthcare
Positive
maven, but I was
trade
always a good
recommendation.
businessman.
By
It
Ag.
started, I'm
Score
reading the
2
paper, and I
symbols.
see the
Ag.
money that the insurance companies were making from us on Obamacare, and they're up by 1,000%, 16, I think one was up 1,723%, 1,700%. And it's because of the massive
News.
amount of money
JP
that's
Morgan
sent
maintains
to them by
overweight
the
on
United
Estee
States
Lauder
government.
costs.
And I said,
Raises
why
price
don't we
target
just send it directly to the people
overall
instead?
sentiment.
And I made that
Positive.
statement. It was a
Score
common
8 out
sense
of 10.
statement. I didn't check
Short-term
with anybody.
impact.
I didn't even
Potential
call Oz or anybody.
short-term
It just made
increase in
sense. I
Estee
made a
Lauder cost
statement,
stock price
and
due
it went
to raised
viral.
price
Can you
target.
believe it? It was
Long-term
so
impact.
popular.
Long-term
In other
positive
words,
impact expected
we cut
as
out the
JP
insurance
Morgan's
companies.
increased
They're making a
confidence may
fortune.
attract more
And,
investors.
they're good people.
Ticker-specific
They're business
analysis.
people. I don't
L.
blame them. But we
Positive
cut them
trade
out.
recommendation.
We pay
By
the
L.
money
Score 2
directly
symbols. L.
to the people. The people love it.
News. New
I
Mountain
said it,
Capital
I
raises
said it as a
$1.2
non-professional in
for
that
private
business.
equity.
And I
Fund
made the
overall
statement like,
sentiment.
all of a
Positive.
sudden, it's
Score
like
4 out of 10.
the biggest story, that
Short-term
one, the biggest
impact.
story.
Short-term market
And I
impact
get a call
may be
from
limited due to
Caroline,
the
who's
specific
around here
funds
someplace.
focus on minority
She said,
investments.
sir,
Long-term
getting
impact.
inundated. Margot
Long-term
called me
market
too.
impact
Margot,
could
you
be
called me too.
significant if the fund
Margot,
delivers successful
everyone knows Margot.
investments
She's been
and
here
growth
from the
for an
beginning.
NMFC stock.
Right from the
Ticker-specific
beginning. But she
analysis.
said, sir, both of them.
NMFC, positive
They
trade
said, so we're being
recommendation.
inundated by
Hold
what?
NMFC,
You made a
score 1
statement about
symbols.
health care being
NMFC.
paid directly to the people into health savings accounts or whatever you want,
News.
health care
JP
accounts.
Morgan maintains overweight on
And I
lithium
said,
motors.
I did. What's the
Raises
story?
price
Said,
target to $355 overall sentiment.
it's crazy.
Positive.
It's
Score
blown
8
up.
out of 10.
People loved
Short-term
it.
impact.
And
Short-term.
so that's
Potential
where we
stock
started.
price
So
increase due to higher price
Obamacare was
target.
designed to
Long-term
make
impact.
insurance companies
Long-term.
rich.
Maintaining
It
overweight
really was. I
suggests
mean,
continued
maybe not
bullish outlook
knowingly
for
at the
company.
time by
Ticker-specific
Obama, because he didn't know much about
LAD.
this stuff.
Positive
It was
trade
designed by other
recommendation.
people in
Hold
Congress that are
LAD.
total pros that
Score
are bought
0
off by the
symbols.
insurance
LAD.
companies. And the problem we'll have with this is we'll get no Democrat votes, even though it should be very bad for them if they don't. But maybe you'll get some. You'll call some of your friends, fellas, and Bob, you'll call some of your friends over on the other side. I don't know how they can reject it. It's just so popular. It's so compelling. So Obamacare was designed to make insurance companies rich with taxpayer subsidies, and I want that extra money straight to the health savings accounts for you. And you can choose your own health care. You go out and negotiate your own health care. It makes people entrepreneurs, mini entrepreneurs. They'll pick the health care that's best for them because it's so different. A young person, they need health care for different reasons, and an old person doesn't need certain things that a young person needs,
A
and
look
vice
behind
versa.
the curtains of Iran's
To further reduce
$7.8
insurance
billion crypto
premiums, my
economy.
plan
Overall
ends the
sentiment.
giant kickbacks
Neutral.
to
Score
insurance
-2
brokers
out of 10.
and
Short-term
corporate middlemen.
impact.
We're getting rid
Potential
of the
short-term
middlemen. How long have
volatility
you
due
heard
to
doctors, all these
geopolitical
doctors
events.
over there look so
Long-term
smart.
impact.
They're all
Long-term
brilliant
growth
people.
potential
I
in
assume you're
countries
brilliant,
with
otherwise you
economic
wouldn't be here,
instability.
right? I assume we have the best.
Ticker-specific
Do we have
analysis.
the best of the
BT
doctors, I would
Neutral
imagine,
symbols.
right? Hey,
BT cost.
how cool is the White House? Okay? They're always in operating rooms. I wouldn't want to be in an I don't like operating rooms, but they do. But how cool is the White House, right? The coolest place on earth. And this is where it all begins. This is where we
News.
came up with a
Stifel
little
maintains
concept
hold on
about
Texas
a
Instruments.
place called
Raises price
Venezuela.
target to
How did that work
$200
out?
overall sentiment.
And this is going to be the
Positive.
same
Score
thing in
3
terms
out
of its
10.
precision.
Short-term impact.
Its
Minimal
importance
short-term
is
market
so big,
impact
it's going to work
expected.
just like that.
Long-term impact. Price target raise
Venezuela
indicates
was
potential for long-term
so
growth.
amazing, but I
Ticker-specific
equate
analysis.
that to other things
TXN.
because we can do other
Neutral
things
trade
like that. It
recommendation.
doesn't always have to
Hold
be in
TXN.
Minnesota
Score 0 symbols.
where everything is
TXN.
corrupt, where they have health care centers that nobody shows up and somebody's making millions of dollars, where they have daycare centers where there are no kids. It's a big scam. It's like
News.
a
Major
horrible
indexes
thing.
are lower
We
after
have a
President
country
Trump
that was
reportedly
great
said
to
he
have
may
a
keep
country that's
National
now
Economic
great again.
Council
It's
Director
really,
Kevin Hassett in
really
his
come a
current
long way.
role.
Make America
Overall
great again is
sentiment.
almost gonna be
Neutral.
obsolete
Score 0
'cause
out of 10.
our country is very
Short-term
close
impact.
to,
Minor impact on short-term market
originally
trends.
we were going to keep
Long-term
America
impact.
great. We may
No
have to switch to
significant
keep America
long-term
great, but
impact
I don't know. There's
expected.
something about MAGA we
Ticker-specific
should never
analysis.
change. It's
DIA.
Susan said, don't
Neutral
change.
IWM.
We like
Neutral
we like
QQQ.
MAGA. Everybody likes
Neutral
MAGA.
trade
So we
recommendation.
want to make
Hold
this decision
SBY. Score 0
just
symbols.
like a
DIA.
Venezuela, just
IUM.
like the
QQQ.
attack
And SPY.
on the Iran nuclear weapons, which wiped that out, just like all of the other things we do, their precision. We want to make it the opposite of Minnesota, California, and all these places that are so badly run. So to further reduce insurance premiums, my plan
News.
ends the giant
Genco Shipping
kickbacks
and
to
Trading
those
responds. Diana
insurance
Shipping
brokers and corporate
reiterates
middlemen
commitment
that
to
you've been
enhancing
hearing about
shareholder
for so
value.
long. It
Reiterates
also
benefits of Genco
funds the
acquiring
so-called
Diana for
cost
creating
sharing
value for
reduction
both
program
company
to bring down the
shareholders.
cost of
No
most
shareholder
common
action required
plans
at
on
this
the
time. Overall
exchanges by
sentiment.
more than
Neutral. Score 0
15%.
out of 10.
And next, the
Short-term
great
impact.
healthcare plan
The proposed
mandates
acquisition may lead to short-term
unprecedented
volatility in
accountability and
GNK stock
transparency
price.
from insurance
Long-term
companies
impact.
and
A
all
successful
healthcare
acquisition
providers.
could
We
potentially
want
affect
transparency.
GNK's
You're not allowed to
long-term
ask the
strategy
doctor
and
how much
market
is it gonna
position,
cost.
but
You're
the
gonna have your
outcome
heart
is
ripped out,
uncertain at this point.
and you're not allowed to
Ticker-specific
negotiate.
analysis.
This
GNK.
is a giant
Negative
scam.
trade recommendation.
It's
Sell
in
GNK.
certain ways,
Score minus
look,
2
nothing
symbols.
can compare to
GNK.
most favored nations. But when you give yourself the right to negotiate, you're not allowed to even ask how much it costs. You're supposed to go into a hospital and get operated on. Then they send you a bill and you have to file for bankruptcy. I'm not going to let that happen. So we're going to have insurance companies and healthcare providers going to have great, and hospitals, great transparency. The word transparency is a very important word. So they can't get away with ripping you off any longer. It requires insurance companies to make it easy for you to compare plans.
News.
Gotta be able to compare
Genco
plans. You
Shipping
can't
and
do that
Trading
now. You're not
responds to
allowed
Diana
do that.
Shipping. reiterates commitment to enhancing shareholder value, reiterates benefits of Genco acquiring Diana for creating value for both company shareholders. No shareholder action required at this time. Overall sentiment, positive, score 6 out of 10. Short-term impact, no immediate market impact expected as the acquisition proposal has been refuted. Long-term impact, the company's strategic plans and potential benefits from acquiring Diana may have a positive long-term market impact. Ticker-specific analysis. GNK, positive trade recommendation. Hold GNK, score 0 symbols. GNK.
And it's going to be massively better. You're going to have great health care at a much lower price, which is the two things. We want great health care and we want low price. You're going to have great health care at low price. Now you have terrible health care at a high price. You have horrible, horrible Obamacare health care. Like everything else he did, it was crap. It was a
News.
horrible plan.
Stifel maintains hold on JB Hunt Transport serves, raises price target to $201 overall sentiment. Positive, score 4 out of 10. Short-term impact, expected price increase, potentially positive for the stock. Long-term impact, price target increase may indicate long-term growth potential. Ticker-specific analysis, JBHD, positive trade recommendation. By JBHD, score 2 symbols. JBHD.
Not even talking about favored nations. The price will come down. So just in conclusion, I'm calling on Congress to pass this framework into law so that we can get immediate relief to the American people, including rural America, and I hope to get Democrat votes. They know, they saw it. I know a lot of Democrats. And they say that plan is unbelievable.
News. JP Morgan maintains neutral on open lane, lowers price target to $28 overall sentiment. Negative, score -3 out of 10. Short-term impact, potential short-term selling pressure due to a lower price target. Long-term impact, neutral. Long-term impact as no significant change in rating or outlook was mentioned. Ticker-specific analysis. Oppln, negative trade recommendation. Sell Oppln, score -2 symbols. Oppln.
Do you approve? No. You know, there's not a thing you can say to him either, Lola. Look, Lola wants to be nice.
News. Fed's Collins says Congress wisely designed Fed as federated system. Congress gave Fed independence to make tough decisions. Does not comment on monetary policy. Economic outlook. Overall sentiment, neutral. Score 0 out of 10. Short-term impact, no impact expected due to non-market related topic. Long-term impact, no long-term implications mentioned in the article. Ticker-specific analysis. SPY, neutral trade recommendation. Hold SPY, score 0 symbols. SPY.
We appreciate you being here very much. You're doing a fantastic job. I just want to leave by saying that this is the biggest thing to ever happen to healthcare in our country. It will not be covered that way by the fake news, and that's a sad thing. It will probably not be voted positively by the Democrats, and that's a sad thing. They all know how good it is. I think we can make health care into a Republican issue because the Republicans are going to be close to unanimous on this. It should be unanimous. Maybe we will be unanimous, but it'll be close. But we have a small majority. We probably need a little bit of help from the Democrats. So whatever we can do, we're going to do it. It's the biggest thing to happen to health care, maybe from the beginning. So Oz, would you take it away, please? Thank you very much.
Mr. President. Mr. President, thank you for standing up for American health care. And I just want to underline this fundamentally important issue. We need Congress to help craft the Great America Health Care Plan. And the Great Health Care Plan will work. It's a brilliantly conceived framework. And as it comes to the American people, they understand that they'll want it. And it should represent the analogous situation, similar to what you did so brilliantly last spring with the Working Families Tax Cut legislation that the President mentioned, has created the Rural Health Transformation Fund, which is why we're here today. I want to put a little bit of texture around why this is such an important issue, because the Rural Health Transformation Fund is the largest investment ever in American history in our rural communities. 50% increase in the amount of money that Medicaid, which Secretary Kennedy and I regulate, into our rural communities, $50 billion. You can do the math, it's $1 billion per state, and that's an important factor because it got them competing. There's 60 million rural Americans, and these folks do not have access to the same care that's available in urban and suburban America. Their life expectancy, if they're in a vulnerable situation, is 9 years shorter. Because your zip code actually is your destiny. It determines how long you're going to live, and we can make a dent in this because the high rates of chronic disease and other ailments that plague our rural areas are often driven because they don't have access to care. That's going to change because of the Sentinel legislation. And again, it's similar teams, the same leadership, same president, same Congress that passed the Working Families Tax Cut legislation, which is incredibly popular around the country and will make the great health care plan successful as well. From the day the legislation was signed to create this wonderful fund, this transformational fund, the team at CMS, which is under Secretary Kennedy, began working. And they're here today. Steph Carlton, outstanding Chief of Staff, Alina Chekai, and Emily Chan. That day started working. It was July the 4th, by the way, on the specific vision for the program. How do you actually get the money out the door in 6 months? The president was insistent, did not want the money in Washington. So we began working closely to make sure that we'd use the money not as a Band-Aid, but to empower those closest to the challenges that rural patients face.
News. Barclays maintains overweight on Avina Healthcare HLDGS. Raises price target to $11 overall sentiment. Positive. Score 4 out of 10. Short-term impact. Short-term market impact. Moderate positive reaction expected. Long-term impact. Long-term market impact. Potential for increased investor confidence and stock price appreciation. Ticker-specific analysis. AVA. Positive trade recommendation. Hold AVA. Score 1 symbols. AVA. News. ON stock has given up its prior gain. Ondas Holdings shares were trading higher after the company raised FY26 revenue outlook. Overall sentiment. Positive. Score 4 out of 10. Short-term impact. Short-term market impact is positive, with shares trading higher. Long-term impact. Long-term market impact is uncertain, pending future performance and industry trends. Ticker-specific analysis. ONS. Positive trade recommendation. Hold ONS. Score 1 symbols. ONS. News. Barclays maintains overweight on BlackRock. Raises price target to $1,350 overall sentiment. Positive. Score 6 out of 10. Short-term impact. Potential short-term price increase due to the increased price target. Long-term impact. Positive long-term impact as investors may view this as a vote of confidence in BlackRock's growth prospects. Ticker-specific analysis. BLK. Positive trade recommendation. Hold BLK. Score 0 symbols. BLK. News. If you invested $1,000 in Van Eck Uranium and Nuclear ETF stock 5 years ago, you would have this much today. Overall sentiment. Positive. Score 5 out of 10. Short-term impact. Possible short-term price increase due to strong performance. Long-term impact. Long-term investment in NLR may be attractive with continued growth potential. Ticker-specific analysis. NLR. Positive trade recommendation. Hold NLR. Score 1 symbols. NLR. News. A look into Workday Inc.'s price over earnings overall sentiment. Neutral. Score -2 out of 10. Short-term impact. Short-term market impact is expected to be moderate due to the recent decline. Long-term impact. Long-term impact is uncertain as the article highlights both positive and negative aspects of Workday's P/E ratio, but overall sentiment suggests potential for future growth. Ticker-specific analysis. WDAY. Negative trade recommendation. Sell WDAY. Score -2 symbols. WDAY. News. How do investors really feel about Quest Diagnostics Inc.? Overall sentiment. Neutral. Score 0 out of 10. Short-term impact. Potential short-term volatility due to increased short interest. Long-term impact. Neutral long-term impact. Short interest may not be a reliable indicator of future stock performance. Ticker-specific analysis. DGX. Neutral trade recommendation. Hold DGX. Score 0 symbols. DGX. News. Barclays maintains underweight on Choice Hotels Intel. Lowers price target to $98 overall sentiment. Negative. Score -5 out of 10. Short-term impact. Short-term market impact is expected to be negative due to the lowered price target. Long-term impact. Long-term market impact remains uncertain, but continued underweight stance may indicate potential long-term bearish sentiment. Ticker-specific analysis. CHH. Negative trade recommendation. Sell CHH. Score -2 symbols. CHH. News. Check out what whales are doing with Tesla overall sentiment. Positive. Score 4 out of 10. Short-term impact. Potential short-term volatility due to large whale activity. Long-term impact. Tesla's long-term prospects may be influenced by the whale's bullish approach and significant options activity. Ticker-specific analysis. Tesla. Positive trade recommendation. Hold Tesla. Score 1 symbols. Tesla. News. Barclays maintains overweight on Hilton Worldwide Holdings, raises price target to $309 overall sentiment. Positive. Score 5 out of 10. Short-term impact. Short-term market impact. Expected stock price increase. Long-term impact. Long-term market impact. Potential for sustained growth, but dependent on future performance and industry trends. Ticker-specific analysis. HLT. Positive trade recommendation. By HLT, score 2 symbols. HLT. News. Barclays maintains overweight on Hyatt Hotels, lowers price target to $198 overall sentiment. Positive. Score 4 out of 10. Short-term impact. The stock may see a slight decrease in value due to the lower price target. Long-term impact. The overall sentiment remains positive, indicating potential long-term growth for Hyatt Hotels. Ticker-specific analysis. H. Positive trade recommendation. Hold H. Score 0 symbols. H. News. Locify shares surge after expanding partnership with Experience.com. Overall sentiment. Positive. Score 8 out of 10. Short-term impact. The short-term market impact is expected to be positive, with shares showing exceptional strength. Long-term impact. However, Locify's longer-term trend remains challenging, reflecting a decrease in shares over the past 12 months. Ticker-specific analysis. LCFY. Positive trade recommendation. Hold LCFY. Score 0 symbols. LCFY. News. Morgan Stanley maintains overweight on Planet Fitness, raises price target to $128 overall sentiment. Positive. Score 5 out of 10. Short-term impact, potential short-term increase in stock price due to the raised price target. Long-term impact, the long-term impact is uncertain, but a strong analyst recommendation may lead to increased investor confidence. Ticker-specific analysis, PLNT, positive trade recommendation. Hold PLNT, score 1 symbols. PLNT. News, Fed's Bowman says given risks, Fed should not signal a pause in rate-cutting campaign. U.S. Central Bank should stand ready to cut interest rates again given labor market risks. Risk to Fed's mandates is asymmetric, with job risks outweighing inflation concerns. Monetary policy is moderately restrictive right now. Inflation pressures are easing as tariff influences abate. Overall sentiment, negative, score -4 out of 10. Short-term impact, interest rates may be cut again due to labor market risks. Long-term impact, monetary policy may remain restrictive, influence in long-term economic growth. Ticker-specific analysis, SPY, neutral trade recommendation. Hold SPY, score 0 symbols, SPY. News, Immunity Bio's 700% revenue boom becomes Citadel's latest I told you so. Overall sentiment, positive, score 5 out of 10. Short-term impact, volatility may cut both ways, often with speed on the upside. Long-term impact, the market may reassess Immunity Bio as a more established biotech player, potentially leading to increased investor interest and valuation. Ticker-specific analysis, IBEX, positive trade recommendation. By IBEX, score 2 symbols. IBEX. News, Gigabyte strengthens NVIDIA partnership to drive innovation in AI-powered gaming and creative solutions. Overall sentiment, positive, score 8 out of 10. Short-term impact, gaming and creative solutions may see increased adoption, driving short-term revenue growth. Long-term impact, the partnership and new products could lead to long-term competitive advantages and market share gains. Ticker-specific analysis, NVDA, positive trade recommendation. Hold NVDA, score 0 symbols. NVDA. News, Barclays maintains overweight on First Horizon, raises price target to $30. Overall sentiment, positive, score 7 out of 10. Short-term impact, potential short-term gain for FHN investors. Long-term impact, positive long-term outlook with potential price growth. Ticker-specific analysis, FHN, positive trade recommendation. By FHN, score 3 symbols. FHN. News, Morgan Stanley maintains overweight on Wynn Resorts, raises price target to $139. Overall sentiment, positive, score 4 out of 10. Short-term impact, expected short-term increase in Wynn Resort stock price. Long-term impact, potential long-term growth based on maintained overweight labor market fragility, underlying inflation levels closer to Fed's 2% target. Fed has made considerable progress in lowering inflation, wage growth consistent with 2% inflation. U.S. economy has been resilient. Overall sentiment, neutral, score 0 out of 10. Short-term impact, the U.S. economy has been resilient, but firms may shed workers unless demand improves. Long-term impact, Fed's policies have made considerable progress in lowering inflation. Ticker-specific analysis, SPY, neutral trade recommendation. Hold SPY, score -1 symbols, SPY. News, Fed's Collins says Congress wisely designed Fed as federated system. Congress gave Fed independence to make tough decisions. Does not comment on monetary policy. Economic outlook overall sentiment. Neutral. Score 0 out of 10. Short-term impact. Neutral market impact expected, as article focuses on Fed speech and no specific market outlook is discussed. Long-term impact. No long-term market impact predicted based on this article. Ticker-specific analysis. SPY. Neutral trade recommendation. Hold SBY, score 0 symbols, SPY. News. Piper Sandler maintains overweight on Black Diamond Therapeutic, lowers price target to $8 overall sentiment, neutral, score 2 out of 10. Short-term impact, potential short-term volatility due to lowered price target. Long-term impact, positive long-term outlook maintained by analysts despite reduced expectations. Ticker-specific analysis. BDTX. Neutral trade recommendation. Hold BDTX, score 1 symbols. BDTX. News. Barclays maintains overweight on Wynn Resorts, raises price target to $143 overall sentiment. Positive. Score 5 out of 10. Short-term impact. Positive sentiment may lead to short-term stock price increase. Long-term impact. Long-term outlook remains positive due to analysts' overweight rating. Ticker-specific analysis. Win. Positive trade recommendation. Hold Win. Score 1 symbols. Win. News. Piper Sandler maintains overweight on CG Oncology, raises price target to $70 overall sentiment. Positive. Score 4 out of 10. Short-term impact. Short-term price increase possible due to raised price target. Long-term impact. Long-term outlook for CG Oncology appears strong with analyst maintaining overweight rating. Ticker-specific analysis. CGON. Positive trade recommendation. Hold CGON. Score 1 symbols. CGON. News. Here's how much you would have made owning Invesco S&P 500 Momentum ETF stock in the last 5 years. Overall sentiment. Positive. Score 5 out of 10. Short-term impact. The article's focus on long-term performance suggests minimal short-term impact. Long-term impact. The strategy highlighted may attract more investors, potentially increasing demand and the stock price in the long term. Ticker-specific analysis. SBMO. Positive trade recommendation. By SBMO, score 2 symbols. SBMO. News. Transdime drops $2.2 billion to bulk up its aircraft parts empire. Overall sentiment. Positive. Score 7 out of 10. Short-term impact.